I found it can be challenging to write about movie sequels, especially when they recycle plots like they do. The original Planet of the Apes series, for example, often reused elements, sometimes featuring a human on an ape planet, and at other times featuring an ape on a human planet. As we delve into Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, consider which plot points might feel familiar. We'll explore these recycled themes further in our discussion, but as usual, your clever and thoughtful comments will be well received. Conquest of the Planet of the Apes is the fourth film in the original Planet of the Apes series, serving as a prequel that depicts the events leading to ape domination. Set in dystopian 1991, following a plague that wiped out all cats and dogs, humans have adopted apes as pets, which quickly escalates into widespread ape slavery. These apes are brutally trained and treated as subservient laborers. The protagonist is Caesar, played by Roddy McDowall, the intelligent, speaking son of Cornelius and Zira, who traveled back in time in the previous film, Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Caesar has been raised in secret by circus owner Armando, portrayed by Ricardo Montalban. While visiting a city, Caesar witnesses a horrific abuse of apes and, in a moment of outrage, accidentally speaks, revealing his intelligence. This forces him to go into hiding amongst the enslaved apes, while Armando is captured and interrogated by Inspector Culp, who suspects the truth about Caesar's origins. Armando ultimately sacrifices himself to protect Caesar. Enraged by Armando's death and the cruel treatment of his fellow apes, Caesar secretly begins to organize and educate the enslaved apes, teaching them combat and how to gather weapons. He works under the tyrannical Governor Breck, who unknowingly becomes his oppressor. Caesar eventually reveals himself to Breck's sympathetic aide, MacDonald, who is of African American descent, and draws parallels between the apes' plight and the history of human slavery. Caesar is eventually captured and tortured, but with MacDonald's help, he fakes his death and escapes. He then leads a violent ape uprising against their human masters. The apes rampage through the city, setting it ablaze and battling the police forces. The film's climax sees Caesar confronting Governor Breck, with the apes ready to execute him. In the original cut of the film, Caesar orders Breck's death and proclaims the beginning of the Planet of the Apes, where humans will serve apes. However, a later theatrical cut added a slightly more conciliatory ending, where Caesar's ape companion Lisa cries no, and Caesar reconsiders, choosing mercy and hinting at a future where apes and humans might coexist, although the clear implication is still ape dominance. The film serves as a powerful allegory for social and racial injustice, drawing parallels to the civil rights movement and the Watts riots of the 1960s. Chronologically, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes unfolds just 18 years after Escape. Yet within a short span, the world undergoes a dramatic transformation. A pandemic eradicates cats and dogs, leaving chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans evolving from pets to human-like servants, all under a fascist global dictatorship. This rapid, sweeping change was a chief criticism of the film, as it feels remarkably compressed for an 18-year period. The rapid production schedule of the original Planet of the Apes series offers a cautionary tale for modern filmmakers. Good art simply cannot be rushed. Consider the timeline. After the 1968 original, sequels arrived in 1970, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, 1971, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, 1972, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, and 1973, Battle for the Planet of the Apes. That's 5 films in just 6 years. A pace so relentless, it's no wonder Charlton Heston eventually stepped away. In that era, long before video streaming or even rental stores, the only way to sustain a film franchise was to churn out new installments. However, this urgency often came at the cost of quality, with each successive film struggling to match the artistic merit of its predecessor. Today, with extended shelf lives provided by streaming services, producers have the luxury of time to develop a truly high-quality sequel, a lesson the original Apes franchise learned the hard way. I believe Conquest of the Planet of the Apes would have benefited significantly from a longer gap after Escape. While Escape is arguably a stronger film than Beneath the Planet of the Apes, the overall quality of the series visibly declined with each rushed installment. Escape featured only 3 actors requiring chimpanzee makeup and 1 actor portraying an angry gorilla, but Conquest demanded the entire ape army. This created a major challenge for producers, who were forced to make the film on a much smaller budget. The limited resources are evident in the final product. They shot the film almost entirely at a single location, Fox headquarters in Century City. And when the original ending fell flat with test audiences, they resorted to re-editing instead of costly reshoots. These are decidedly B movies from a top-line studio, something unfortunately common in the pre-Star Wars science fiction era. Had Conquest of the Planet of the Apes been released in 1974 instead of 1972, its themes would have resonated more powerfully with an audience grappling with the Watergate scandal and its revelations of governmental dysfunction. This, of course, is a retrospective observation. In 1972, Richard Nixon's popularity was still high, culminating in a landslide re-election that year. By 1974, however, particularly after President Gerald Ford's controversial pardon of Nixon, public sentiment had shifted dramatically. Conquest's prescient narrative was simply ahead of its time, finding greater popularity during its television run than in its initial theatrical release. Most film franchises adhere to a formula established in their inaugural installment. From Star Wars to The Terminator, sequels often feel like a plug-and-play scenario. Swap a character here, shuffle a plot point there, and you have a new film. The Force Awakens, for instance, largely mirrored A New Hope beat for beat, while every Terminator movie rehashes elements from the original. Back to the Future Part 2 cleverly parodied this very trope with Marty McFly's frantic efforts to avoid altering the space-time continuum by not running into himself. The Planet of the Apes series, however, largely relies on a consistent fish-out-of-water narrative. In the first film, Taylor's arrival on an ape-controlled planet sets the template. An initial failed escape, a kangaroo court trial, a successful escape aided by an ally, a pivotal discovery, and ultimately a shocking twist ending. As previously discussed, Beneath the Planet of the Apes largely replicates the original Apes movie scene for scene, at least in the first half. Escape from the Planet of the Apes, however, cleverly reverses the dynamic. Cornelius and Zira step into Taylor's shoes, while Doctors Dixon and Branton become their human allies, mirroring Cornelius and Zira's role in the first films. Otto Hasslein serves as the antagonist in place of Dr. Zaius, and the film concludes with a shocking twist ending involving switched chimpanzee babies. Conquest of the Planet of the Apes includes some notable departures from the established franchise formula. There is no rocket ship. The film centers on Caesar as a fish out of water in a human world. Having been sheltered in Armando's circus, Caesar has been shielded from the cruelty inflicted upon his fellow apes until now. His resentment towards humans is fueled by the knowledge of his parents' death and the sacrifice of another chimpanzee for his survival. MacDonald, a descendant of African American slaves, serves as his key ally, while Governor Breck acts as his nemesis. Armando's interrogation from Culp mirrors the kangaroo court endured by Taylor in the first film. A second escape attempt, aided by MacDonald, proves successful, and the film concludes with a surprising twist. Breck is spared execution rather than suffering it. "1972 marked a peculiar moment in U.S. history. While Richard Nixon's popularity was high, the Watergate hotel break-in had yet to dominate headlines. Just 4 years removed from the assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy, a sense of lingering turmoil persisted. Culturally, the Beatles, though disbanded, still largely controlled the music charts with their individual solo releases, suggesting the 70s might simply echo the tumultuous 60s, a widespread concern at the time. Young men continued to be drafted into military service to support the ongoing war in Vietnam. The prevailing repeat of the prior decade's formula would dramatically shift by the end of 1974. Watergate finally eclipsed Vietnam in the news, a corrupt president was peacefully removed from office, and disco, spearheaded by the Bee Gees' popularity, definitively unseated the former Beatles from their chart dominance. The writers of Conquest of the Planet of the Apes made deliberate choices to draw parallels between the apes and antebellum slaves, further emphasized by casting an African American actor as Caesar's sympathetic ally. The shift underscores the film's anti-racism message, moving the thematic focus away from the anti-nuclear concerns prevalent in the earlier installments. Notably, this was also the first film in the series to depict chimpanzees, orangutans, and gorillas working collaboratively, a significant departure from the more segregated portrayals in the first two films and the violent interspecies conflict seen in the third, where Dr. Milo is killed by a gorilla. The film vividly depicts the apes' suffering to evoke the cruelty of slavery in the United States, even including a chilling auction of Caesar. The harsh training and brutal punishments are meant to be unsettling, ensuring this isn't a feel-good movie, but a stark reminder of a past that could easily be forgotten. By 1972, the last person born into slavery had passed away, and the last Civil War veteran had died 16 years prior. No one alive in 1972 remembered the lived experience of legal slavery in the United States. While racism persisted, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes aimed to show slavery from the perspective of the enslaved. Notably, this film premiered 5 years before Roots, which is widely recognized as the first major screen portrayal of slavery from this viewpoint. The narrative was deliberately crafted to foster sympathy for the apes and portray humans as unambiguously evil. Conquest of the Planet of the Apes stands out as the most violent of the original Apes films. Although much of the gore was edited out, the surviving footage still depicts apes making the ultimate sacrifice for their cause. Released in 1972, while the United States was actively trying to withdraw from Vietnam, the film also served as a stark reminder of war's devastating consequences. This message likely hit too close to home for some test audience members, many of whom were veterans who had personally endured its horrors. Conquest of the Planet of the Apes effectively draws parallels to the United States Civil War. This resonates deeply when recalling that approximately 179,000 black men enlisted and fought for their freedom, this comprising about 10% of Union forces. with an additional estimated 40,000 making the ultimate sacrifice. This sobering historical context underscores the film's reversal of roles. Rewatching the original Planet of the Apes through this lens profoundly alters its perception, portraying a history that elicits immediate sympathy for the apes. It might even lead viewers to concur with Dr. Zayas's conviction that these specific humans, as depicted in Conquest, and their descendants deserved their grim fate. Although Conquest of the Planet of the Apes was released just 4 years after the original, the series itself appears to have traversed an immense conceptual and societal gulf. The 18-year leap from the world of escape from the Planet of the Apes to Conquest seems incredibly compressed. However, consider our own reality. Does the transformation of the past 18 years, since 2007, seem equally far-fetched, setting aside the apes' bipedal evolution? Looking back to 2007, we find the dawn of the smartphone era and the nascent stages of Facebook and Twitter, predating the 2008 housing crash. Consider, too, the astonishing advancements in artificial intelligence since then. This rapid societal evolution mirrors the writer's considerations for Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. They looked back on the dramatic 18-year leap from 1954 to 1972, when the film was produced, and they had similar foresight. Now we're left to ponder our own future. How will we advance in the next 18 years? What will our world look like in the year 2043? Thank you for watching and for your continued likes and insightful comments, especially those on the Planet of the Apes series. We'll revisit this fascinating franchise again in a few months. Next, however, I'll be dedicating my upcoming 3 episodes to the classic films of Steven Spielberg: Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Jaws, and Jurassic Park. It's almost as if Spielberg knew of my childhood passions, as these movies perfectly align with my youthful fascination with UFOs, sharks, and dinosaurs. Join me as we discover if these cinematic treasures have truly aged well. Be sure to hit subscribe so that you won't miss any of our future episodes.